All right, welcome to Now This Is Podcasting. This is part 2 of our review of The Witch. Hopefully you were able to catch part 1, where we mostly talked about the look of the film, the performances, the score, just kind of the bare bones. But I hope you are excited to continue and listen to our discussion on The Witch part 2. This episode is going to dive more into archetypes, motifs, kind of symbols. What's the subtext between each character?
Yeah, theories.
Yeah, theories, stuff like that.
The deep shit.
Yeah, so I think early, if you listen to our first episode, it was kind of giving you a base of what the characters are, really kind of describing mostly like the actors and how they're doing in it, and shots that take place, lighting, sound, just kind of the look of the film. And this is about the subtext of it, like what are we actually getting out of this film?
Yeah, like what is it really, other than just family drama? Because
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of things are just that.
We're going past the surface here, boys.
Yeah. Some films are designed in such a way that this is the point, and I think it's interesting to think about why Robert Ayers is such a great filmmaker. Is I don't know if you can say that one is more the point than the other. Is it about the family drama, or is it about the motifs and symbols and all of the themes underlying it? What really is the point that he's going for?
Pretty sure it's about a witch.
Yeah, exactly. It's about a witch, but what is the witch saying?
What does the witch mean?
Yeah,
Hayden?
It's not
The witch
just a
has
leaf.
no lines.
Which makes it even more scary.
That's
I think.
true. Yeah.
The witch isn't saying much.
Yeah, the goat has more lines.
I mean, just to give a little, I'm going to give a little tease to what I think. I think this movie is not about witches at all.
No.
That's going to be a tease to my theory at the end, because I think the witch.
Yeah, I think it's not about witches either. I think it's a witch.
I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding. No, I think it's about a lot of.
I think witches have nothing to do with this film. I think they're just kind of a setting to bring you to like this kind of horrific, anxiety-inducing state. But that's my tease. So we'll get to our theories and stuff at the end. I think first off, some of the kind of like maybe archetypes and symbols we want to start with is I want to talk about the Hares.
So you want to start with Hares, because I think it's fascinating that he decided to use the archetype of Hares, knowing full well that the archetype doesn't really transfer over to American collective unconscious the way it exists in Britain.
Yeah, so I actually found a good article. It talks about rabbits' hairs have long been associated with the moon and witchcraft in European folklore. Rabbits often exist as in like Ireland and like Scottish folklore. They're commonly believed to be associated with witches in terms of their shape-shifting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what has been introduced into this film, because you see this hare like in a couple different scenes. And I think if you have that kind of back knowledge of what a hare is and what it means in terms of like kind of paganism and witchcraft, you could assume that this is a witch.
I think it's the witch.
Yeah. And you know what's also crazy is that the idea of the hare extends even further, like from the witch's Sabbath. There's actually like hares will be observed to be gathered around staring up at the moon. Very similar to the way, obviously, that the film ends as a witch's Sabbath, because they're all hares staring up at the moon.
Wow, that's wild. I didn't come across that.
That's
cool.
Yeah, I thought that was so.
I wonder if that's
crazy.
On purpose. Like if Robert Ayers knew that.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Is like then when he mentioned in the commentary specific, he's like, yeah, I know that hares don't like. People ask me, it's like, what's up with the fucking bunnies? Like, he's like,
What's up, Doc?
Google witches and hares. Yeah.
Bad joke.
I can't help it, dude. You can't just like throw it up there. Like,
we're all lobbing softballs for Jade.
That's a good one.
But yeah, so I thought hares are so interesting, because it's not something that I recognize as being like evil, malignant, or anything other than a cartoon character. Really, that's how I think of them in the Americans' collective unconscious.
yeah, Thumper.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think of. I don't think of Bugs Bunny.
I think of. Have you guys seen Watershed Down?
Oh yeah,
That's the one where the rabbits all kill each other.
Yeah.
No, fuck that
It's
movie,
a-
bro.
that movie's wild.
We should do a review on.
I do not ever want to watch that, so we shouldn't.
That means that we have to, because there will be a controversy
Yeah.
when we talked.
Controversy. Plus, like if something,
That movie haunted me as a child. Dude.
I'm just saying,
I've told my mom that like whenever I'm like, oh man, I'm like stressed out about this situation. It must be something from my childhood. It's because my mom made me watch Watership Down. That movie's brutal.
It's crazy.
There's a CGI version of it that came out on Netflix a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
Why?
a series. Yeah, it's something.
Stop.
So sorry to get off on that. To get more, I talked about the kind of pagan aspect of the hare.
yeah,
But there's a verse in Leviticus, and it says, "The hare, because it chews the cud and does not part the hoof, is unclean to you." So I think it's cool. There's also like a biblical kind of reference to how the hare is like unclean. It's not something that a good Christian would eat. It's not something they would take part in. So they have a kind of an archetype in kind of pagan beliefs, but then they also have like a meaningful existence in like a biblical reference. And so I think it's cool to kind of have those juxtaposed, because no matter what, our characters should be like opposed to hares no matter what, because they either represent something that's pagan or they represent something that's unclean.
I mean, you hungry, bro. You're going to eat that rabbit.
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting that you bring up paganism as well, because the like nature worship being such a big part of pagan belief systems, and how that's, again, we mentioned in part one how the idea of the oppressive nature of the wilderness around them, and how that reflects their attitudes towards paganism, towards witches, and how nature literally is an archetype, and like we won't be conquered by this land, but they can't grow crops, and they can't hunt.
They're not like allowed to go into the woods. And
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's so interesting thinking about how those are mirrored in each other. The nature, the oppressive nature, the oppressiveness of nature is akin to paganism and their attitudes towards it.
and this is not to say like talk bad about paganism. This is more in like, I guess,
From the lens of puritanical society.
It's through the context of this film, like what paganism means in this film. That's not to like knock our witches and warlocks out there.
Yeah, exactly. Or druids.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call yourselves.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I just also think it's neat. It's like the spirit of a rabbit is only vulnerable to silver bullets. That's like kind of the lore surrounding them.
Yeah, and I kind of wondered if the silver chalice.
That's what I was
actually,
saying. It's like, did he just turn the thing into a bullet? Is that why the gun didn't fire well?
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting that
Well,
he
yeah.
couldn't kill it because he didn't have a silver bullet.
Oh yeah, I like
And that's
that.
because he also got rid of the silver chalice.
That's my favorite line. If you listen to our first episode, is when he's trying to shoot and he says, "I'll fire upon it." So he's trying to shoot at the hare.
And the gun blows up into his fucking eyeball.
And so I think you could.
Dude's world's worst hunter.
Yeah.
The rabbit is standing there.
But again, I think you could take that as that's whatever magic is surrounding.
Oh, absolutely.
This creature. It's not that he's a bad hunter. It's
I mean,
that
the fact-
this rabbit was never going to be shot in the first place.
If your dog is barking at a rabbit and the rabbit is just sitting there, leave that rabbit the fuck alone.
Also, this is not a creature I've ever associated with like being creepy or scary.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, when it's just sitting there and it's like little noses moving, and rabbit eyes are now to me the creepiest thing besides goat eyes.
Yeah, goat eyes are disgusting.
Goat eyes are crazy.
This hare looks it has a lot to do, I think, with the score and the setting that you see this hare in.
Yeah, that slow zoom really creates so much ominous atmosphere.
The rabbit might be the best actor in the movie.
Dude, you think Black Phillip's the best actor? I thought.
I do, yeah. One and two.
It's
One and two.
It's between the
It's
two.
a 1A, 1B
Yeah.
type situation.
They're best friends, probably.
Yeah,
so I like to
backfield by
assume.
committee.
Right.
Just like to imagine the rabbit just riding on Black Phillip and his horns, just chilling.
Well, that would be
Dude,
the
we
case
gotta-
because goats and witches.
Yeah.
We got to commission an artist to do that for the thumbnail on this episode. That's great. But yeah, I just think it's like it's a testament to the filmmaking to make a slow zoom on a rabbit look really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it builds to the aesthetic of this. I think it fits so well, and I mean, good on Robert Eggers. That guy
Good job, Bob.
that guy can make a film.
Yeah, and like with goats, I think goats are a fascinating archetype, especially when we think of depictions of the devil, and those eyes being so creepy. There's actually no physical description of Satan in the Bible,
Right.
which I think is fascinating because it's like, why is he always depicted as a goat with cloven hooves and with horns? Where does this like, why are goats so strongly with associated with witches in art? Like, what they're like riding goats through the air in Witches' Sabbath? Like, like why? Like, where does all of this come from? And like, you also have like the icon of Baphomet, which is like endorsed by the Knights Templar and also features prominently in like devil depiction. But like,
How did you say that? Sorry, I thought it was Baphomet. I might be saying it. I might be saying it as really dumb American.
No, it's Baphomet. There's also a Bahamut that I really struggle with saying Baphomet the right way because it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make
you're
sure
right.
we were talking about the same thing because I was like, "What is that thing?" It's that Baphomet guy. And I was literally googling it as soon as you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another kind of a part of your kind of goat symbolism that is a big part of it's associated with like Satanism and stuff like that and paganism.
It's excellent, and it's like why was the devil always depicted with fawn-like features in Christian art? It's just really something that's borrowed. It feels like from Greek mythology. There's no reason to it. We're about to get into apples, so. I mean, let's keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, that's great. The apple plays a big role in that. Oh my god, I almost said circumcision scene.
No,
that is so
exorcism.
Wrong. It's the exorcism scene.
As a Christian, he was circumcised a long time ago.
But the scene with Caleb, where he's, and boy oh boy, does he have some great dialogue. There starts. You talked about like being like kissing the cheek of God or something.
No, kiss me with the kisses of thy lips.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, and I lay on the lap of God. He has like just this amazing like kind of bit of like very biblical dialogue, which is wonderful. And like I said, this is the scene where he pukes up the apple, and I gag every time. I love that because to me it's like it's kind of reintroducing the lie that originally happened, where they said they went into the woods to find apples.
Yeah.
And
it also represents sin in nature.
Yeah, so I think it's that. I think it's that. Not only is it like the apple is like the first sin, taking the apple from the fruit of the tree of life or whatever, tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
It's reintroducing that original sin that they had, where they lied about going into the woods. They were going in to hunt.
Yep.
And then Caleb kind of covers for his dad, William, and he's like, "Oh no, we were just looking for apples. I thought I saw one." And so him puking that up, I think, is just like that kind of sin being thrown back in their face. And I love that. It as disgusting as it is.
Also, witches dig on apples too. It was a big thing for them. If you've ever seen the movie Snow White,
I thought the same thing.
Holy heck! I never made that connection.
Yeah,
That's
the
so
poison, the poison apple. I think that is as well like a bit of biblical lore in Snow White. I actually think of it like we've talked about Carl Jung a lot before, and we've talked about animal expression. Are you
getting on the Carl Jung train?
Just for a moment, just one round.
Let's go. Goal! Carl. All right. Conduct us, Calvin.
All right. So we're on the Jung train. So so the thing is like when we talk about archetypes and we think of Eve as being sexual desire, like that's what's happening here. Like it's not only original sin here, it's also his sexual desire what led him into the witch's hovel and what ultimately led to him being, I assume, to being bewitched. I mean, that's what I think. That's very strongly implied.
Oh, I don't think there's like any.
Yeah,
he didn't go in there to have a cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. It's so there's so much of that the sexual desire built into the apple, and it's also the same thing. Like Thomasin, she cradles him when they're by the river and says, "I saw no apple tree in the valley. I so wish for one." And that she like bites his head, which I think is really interesting when you think about the like his sexual lust and her pointing that out to him, like through talking about apples.
I also like I think I said in our first episode that Caleb kind of recites that sort of like not prayer. I don't know what it is. He's reciting kind of like the.
It is. I would say.
Yeah, it's like that Adam's sin is the first sin, and that it's a nature that dwells within them, this like sinful nature, and so. Like we had talked about before, is like, so he's looked at Thomasin in kind of a sexual way, a lustful way. And so now he's able to kind of like fulfill that lust with the witch and kind of the apple.
That's why her boobs are so big.
Yeah, the apple represents that.
She's actually, so that's an interesting casting choice that he chose. He specifically wanted a model because he said I don't want an actor. I want, because he'd actually done, Robert Akers had done a lot of work with models as a part of the like his stage experience earlier in his career, and he's like, I want a model because they don't have to be told what to do. They are just always on doing exactly what she did. Very poised, drawing you in just with the movement of the body, which is so different than like an actor being told, what's my motivation? Like that. I just want you to be yourself. You're a model, be a model.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have
And
one
then gross
more.
hand.
Oh my God. Yeah. When it creeps out, it's like it's the old lady.
Just
hand
like
back,
it totally reminded me of like Velociraptor. Apparently my hands are immune.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to talk about the silver chalice?
Yeah. That's I don't have a lot of theories about this other than the silver bullet thing with the rabbit, but I just thought it was, it was interesting seeing. I'm assuming both of you saw it the second time, right?
Oh, I saw it the first time I saw this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm hecka smart. I definitely noticed it.
It's like a fucking shiny cup. So
It's like the only thing in the frame. Otherwise, she looks at it briefly, but
So we're talking about the Caleb. He's died. He's been buried, but he returns, and he's talking to his mother, and he brings Samuel back as well.
yeah.
And that's when you get like you said, the nursing scene, the breastfeeding.
Oh yeah,
scene
and the actress, what's her name?
Kate Dickey.
Yeah,
Kate Dickey.
Kate Dickey.
She's just so much experience with the breastfeeding thing.
Yeah, dude, you won't let that go.
No, I won't. I mean, there's no way that crow rubbed her nipples raw as her kid did in Game of Thrones.
But I do. That was one thing I definitely made a note of. Is you can see because I mean, obviously that's like not literally happening, I guess, or maybe it's a projection that a spell that the witch has cast.
Yeah.
But like Caleb is not back, Samuel is not back.
But I think so. What's really interesting, I think, about the cup in this scene specifically is the idea that earlier in the film, Kate had mentioned how the devil appeared to tempt Jesus, right? And here in this dream, the cup, it feels like an element, like she's like, I'm not grieved of it, I don't miss it, like I don't, like it's because it represented something else. But here it kind of says something else. Like, was she being tempted by the devil, like a part of his collection of things, like because William sold it to the devil type thing? Because he made, like, that's kind of the implication, is like he made a deal with the devil, and that's ultimately what drove them down the path for everything, finding the hare and into the woods, because they had to hunt that way. So, but I think it's interesting.
Wait,
here.
so you think when he says he sold it to like a merchant, he didn't really sell it to a merchant?
No, I think he did, but I think what's interesting is when you think of the narrative going into the forest, that causing a lot of the conflict and with the witch as well.
Wow, I actually would have liked this better if it turned out that he was like, he made a deal with the devil and sold this silver goblet.
I think
I think that actually would have been really neat.
There's like a lot of little things in here that I think you could take that way. But what I think is interesting is it's an interesting way of looking at the chalice being a part of her temptation, because it's also her family. It's Caleb and it's Sam, and if you think of them as being stepping stones or like pieces of her claim to authority as a Puritan woman, she doesn't really have agency. It's only as a wife and mother. So that's the devil there. Look, I have your children. These are the things that you want because these are your gender role. And the same sort of thing. That's why the chalice is there as an element of something to tempt her with. And I think that's my idea of why it's there. That's about all though.
I also think it could maybe be a criticism on kind of the maybe some of the ideals of Christianity, where it's like, love one another, kind of give up earthly belongings to follow Christ, but she's so attached to this like silver goblet, so maybe she has her own baggage along with that, where she kind of is overtly like very hardcore Christian, but then she still has this attachment to like worldly things. I think there might be something to take.
That worldly thing was a representation of her dead father.
Right, yeah.
Or whatever, which I think is like in the dream or spell or whatever. It's all things that she had lost. And
family members. That's a good point too. Yeah, I think that's an interesting.
Still don't
that's-
understand why the crow has got the peck at her nip, though.
I honestly, I think that sometimes you can just have a creepy, weird thing.
Okay,
in a movie
yeah.
Just for because I can't like associate that with anything.
I think I can.
Okay.
Not like crows are also.
How dig you deep in here, Calvin?
mean,
How
I'm
deep are you digging here, Calvin?
Okay,
This
not
is
not a ton deep.
step-headed restaurant.
Not a ton deep. So crows are also associated with witches.
Yeah.
In folklore, and I think it's interesting to think about how the witch, when she is in the goat hut, is drinking from the goat.
Okay.
And here the crow is drinking the milk or blood from Kate's breast. It's the same type of thing. They're trying to steal the life of these people, literally sucking it out of them.
Okay.
Oh, see, I was thinking that the crow is another one of those witches.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
I mean.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
another one of the things that they can shapeshift into.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think a whole lot of the crow in that. I just thought it was like a creepy bit of imagery.
Yeah.
And I think kind of what lends to that is like there's like all these interviews with Robert Eggers where he's like, it sort of seems like he doesn't care what people think of his movie.
I love that. Yeah. It's like, no, I made a good movie. You know, I'm just here because I'm contractually obligated to like talk about this.
I'm here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same
that
time, he
Marshawn
likes
Lynch?
Marshawn.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch. Yeah, he's the Marshawn Lynch of filmmakers.
Oh yeah, that does make you like him a lot more.
Yeah, but I do think there's like an element like, you know, like when you get it, like he'll engage with you. Like, you know, if you understand my vision of it, you know, he has that idea of like he's mentioned in The Lighthouse, like I have a certain level of ambiguity that I'm aiming for, but like your critiques of it to me, like you just don't get it. Sorry,
Yeah,
man. Like it's a deep film and like, yeah, you're just not smart enough to get there.
I
Like
just really
the
hope
way I
he
think about it.
listens to this and he's like, wow, that is not what I meant at all.
Yeah.
The
Just
hair,
like that
he
dude,
was like-
Jaden's right on top of it though.
Yeah,
who's
Bob?
I just hope he was like, oh, I just thought rabbits looked creepy, and that's why I put them in. Like they had nothing to do with it, just something like that. Yeah, because he has interviews where he talks about people describe this movie as a slow burn, and he was like, yeah, people say that. He's like, I never said that.
Yeah,
That's
I don't think of
that's
it
not
as
what
a slow,
I think it is.
I don't think of it as a slow burn either because it goes too quickly to me. Like the pacing, like the shot length is too quick for it to be a slow burn.
Jaden rolled his
I'm
eyes.
literally yawning, dude. This movie is
We'll get to some slow burns.
burns slower than your prime times compared to Cigarettes, boys.
Right. So do we want to move away from symbols? Do we have...
No, because here too, this is a really other important part is the idea of the signing of the devil's book or a bargain with the devil. Because we kind of talked about that with him selling the chalice because he was trying to make up for the fact that he couldn't provide for his family, right? So he sold the cup so that he could get a trap and make up for his shitty crops.
Right.
So that's part of it. So it wasn't his to give away, but we're assumed to have made a deal with the devil for all of their powers. So the fact that this enters into a literal temptation of one of the characters is very interesting because if it's happened to Kate Dickey, did it also happen with the twins? Did it also happen with Caleb when he went to the witch's hovel? And so, you know, Kate mentions the idea of Jesus being tempted by the devil, and she's tempted by the devil. Clearly, I would say, with her two sons, and it's like, and then the same thing at the end with Thomason, like, wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
I love everything about this. Like,
I love
would
that.
thou like the taste of butter? Yes. Like that's like something. I get it in the time that makes sense. Like that is living in decadence.
Yeah.
Right now I can buy butter whenever I want. So hearing a line like that, I'm just like, it's not goofy or anything, but I hear that line. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it because I have to. This movie does a good job of immersing me in that time period so that I don't think that line is goofy. But when I analyze it later, I'm like, liking the taste of butter. I can get butter whenever I want.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure she was thinking, well, is it Kerry Gold?
Yeah.
Like, if not, why? What are you tempting me with?
But I think
Kroger.
But I think when you're immersed in the context of this film, I think it does a really good job of like butter would be like a really desirable thing. Like all the stuff he says, like that living in like lavish, like living in decadence. I think that whole thing is like done so well. And that voice, I don't know who does the voice of that.
Wahab Chaudhry.
Wow, he does a great job.
And another thing, like Robert Eggers mentions, like he's like, you can't see the suit, you can't see Wahab, and he's just like one of the most beautiful human beings you will ever. And I just he mentions it so many times, like in his interviews and in the commentary too. He's just like, you just don't. It's just a shame.
You guys just miss out.
yeah, it's just like,
Why do they need to sign something? You can just have a verbal agreement with the devil. Like,
yeah,
you're
it's
gonna take this thing to court, buddy. Like, what are you doing here?
yeah. We need it to be.
He's all, this is my prenup.
think
Soul
it's-
cell.
I think it works because it's like this physical finality.
Yeah, no, it
of what
absolutely
they're
does.
doing.
I'm just making a dumb joke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I do like that it's just like this. It's this pen stroke that is
Yeah.
signing your life.
She's
away.
like illiterate, so she's like, I don't know how to write my own name, and
He's like, I'll guide you.
I will guide your hand.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will guide thy hand.
you rolled your eyes so
I
hard.
hate it so
during that.
much, dude.
But I think-
you had to say thy, and that was like you were about done.
But so now I think we can talk about like the witch. You know, the entire thing this film is built on is around the archetype of the witch. And I think the genius of the witch, again, like we mentioned before, that it works in 3 ways: taut family drama beset by the elements, a psychic mindscape where Thomason exists as a mental projection of each family's members' inadequacies, the 7 deadly sins and all of that, but also as allegory for Puritan society as a whole, where Thomason functions as the shadow self of the puritanical persona. I think this is really why Eggers is such a great filmmaker. Is he starts with an archetype, then creates great characters that embody the characteristics of the archetype, but also work as full individuals independent of that archetype. I mean, Thomason is very much just a real girl in a puritanical household.
So
like, what are witches then? Like, how do we think of witches now? Because I think that
So, like,
affects
just
how
like
we approach
personally
this.
speaking,
Yeah.
like if I think of like a witch like Sabrina or Hermione or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
I
like, I'm obviously
agree.
joking, but like
No,
they're,
I still
they're
think that-
strong, independent, intelligent women, and that's what I think of, and that's like literally all of the jokes, like Monty Python, all the jokes I make with my friends, like, oh, lady back in 16th century, like she knew how to do math. Oh, I'll burn her at the stake. She's a witch. Like,
Yeah.
that's literally how I think of them. It's like just oppressed, intelligent women.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I think that too. Like, what are your thoughts, Connor? Like, when I say witch, what do you think?
this is gonna sound so bad, especially
I don't
after
think so.
no, especially after like seeing like interviews with Robert Eggers and how he views witches, and he talked about how he had nightmares. You know, he's kind of consumed by witches. You know, and he feared them in a way, and that's kind of what played a role in him making this film. I don't think about witches at all, man. Like, I guess just like as an archetype, I think it is just someone who is into the pagan arts, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. Though.
You know what I think? I guess if I want to bring it into like contemporary, like how does it affect, or how does it play into what role does it have in society now? There's this subreddit called
Witches versus patriarchy.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so it's in that aspect, it's like a empowering term for women. It's women that stand up to the patriarchy, and so I guess that's sort of what I think of it now. But it's tough to put that in terms of this film because I don't think it really means the same thing, I guess. But I guess I feel bad because I honestly I don't think about witches ever. So
I mean, it's always something that I don't like. So I'm like, man, it's
you
my mind today.
you posed this question when you sent us your script and kind of you had these questions built into it, and I was thinking about it, I was like, man, I just don't. Besides like kind of the green lady with the big nose on a broomstick, that's like my archetype of a witch.
That's exactly what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly the whole point of what archetypes are and why we make characters around archetypes, because they carry certain qualities. Like the witch as an archetype, witches embody evil. They're communing with the devil. They're associating with the dark forces of nature. They live alone. They can fly. They brew potions or unctions. They do magic. They're old and ugly, sexually deviant. They abduct children and either eat them or use their body parts for their magic, like specifically in the unctions. Like when she's slathering herself with the body, like there's a lot of sexual connotations with the idea of a broom and the unction. They would put it on their vagina, literally so that they could fly. That was the whole point. She was building a flying potion when she was rubbing herself with Sam's bowels and innards.
Can I say that is a great bit of diegetic sound? Where she's just like, it's just like plop, 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 plop. And then the score is building around that, but it's still sound that's happening in the scene too. And just that scene is so disturbing.
It's disgusting.
But I love that there's like you can physically see where the sound is coming from.
What do you guys think that was? I think it was like strawberry jam. What was that shit?
Oh, what did they actually use?
Yeah.
Placenta, I think.
They got real placenta.
Talking about
You
Robert
see
Eggers,
good old Bob hanging outside the fucking hospital. You gonna do anything with that, or can I have it?
I mean, speaking of Robert Eggers and his authenticity, I wouldn't put it past.
Yeah, but I feel bad that I don't have like a bigger opinion than just kind of basically like my idea of a witch is something you'd see in Scooby-Doo. I don't think about this stuff very much.
But you don't need to because it already exists there. That's the point.
See, that's what's weird
with the baggage.
That's what's weird. It's like his perspective and my perspective are totally different because like the way I grew up viewing witches is like literally like Sabrina and Hermione. Like those are my two like very first introductions of witches in my life, and they're very powerful, like independent women.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll get to the evolution of the witch archetype more, but like I do want to talk about like the witch's Sabbath too, specifically, because we mentioned that earlier of all of
you've
the
described
Hares,
that. Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't know what the witch's Sabbath is.
Okay, perfect. So that's what I'm here for. So the witch's Sabbath is it's many like it's an organized gathering of witches where they would brew potions, like some of the things that depicted of riding goats and like a lot of the diabolical elements of the witch stereotype are in here. It's like eating of babies, flying on goats, dancing naked, poisoning of wells, desecration of hosts, and the kissing of the devil's anus. And like I'm with you. Yeah,
okay.
like I'm with you all the way right there. I'm like, whoa, don't threaten me with a good time.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm about it.
Like I just
Guarantee I'm dressing up as a devil this Halloween, looking for some witches.
Oh yeah, and then, and then you can just go around and be like, "Wouldst thou desire the taste of my lips?"
Dude, you are way too good at that voice.
And then I just imagine there's like a deleted scene. She's just like Rosebud.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, Calvin.
Like I knew eventually I'd be able to work in a Citizen Kane reference. I just never imagined that it would be about prolapse
analingus.
rectums. Yeah.
Oh,
Citizen Kane, one of the greatest movies of all time.
In your opinion.
I'm considered by scholars, but if that's the first time you've ever heard about, I'm sorry. It's not about that. It's very not sexual in nature. It's just a widely seen quote in film.
I am sure that everyone involved in that film is totally stoked that you work that in as a joke
like
about.
dead.
I'm sure they're all dead now.
So I'm saying it's like they're dead, so who cares?
Maybe they're rolling over in their grave
They're
with laughter.
Hopefully. Yeah. They're
So good.
Well, some of
they're
them's
great.
a witch and just has eternal youth from rubbing babies on themselves.
But yeah, so that's the witch's Sabbath, that and specifically the kissing of the devil's anus is referred to as the kiss of shame, and it's this idea of like they're so sexually deviant that they would, kiss the rectum of the
Damn,
devil.
society has went downhill, boys.
Are there any other? What's some more subtext we want to dive into?
I mean, let's talk about now the evolution of what the witch is. Like you were saying, like the difference. I think what's so interesting about this film and the idea of the witch archetype is specifically both of your attitudes towards the witch right now. The idea of a witch being a strong, independent female versus old, scary, and evil. Like, why is there that split there? And I want to know what your opinions are. Like, why you think that's the case?
I guess the thing is, like, I don't associate strong, independent women with being a witch. Like, I think a witch is a weird mythical thing that just exists in tales. And I think a strong, independent woman can totally exist in today's society. So I think of them as totally separate things. Like I would never associate a woman who has an opinion as a witch. And the fact that that's like an empowering characteristic, I think is, I don't want to say it's like sad in a way, but it's like,
I don't think it's sad at all.
I wish that, it wasn't associated with anything.
Same thing when the girl's like, I'm a bad bitch. And like, that's like a very respectable thing. Like for her to say, like, so that means that she's like in control of her own shit. Like she can do whatever she wants. She's independent. It's the same thing. Like when like dudes used to call girls bitches, or some people still do. it's like derogatory towards them. It's demeaning. But then women took that and empowered themselves with that term.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think it's the same kind of way that they're doing this with this archetype / character. It's like, especially I think Sabrina's one of the first ones to do it. It's like literally like, hey, we've grown up this whole time, like our whole society's being taught like witches are bad women. They do these things, but like it's only because they speak independently. They're outspoken, all this stuff. So like, let's make them that. Like that's not a wrong thing to do. So there shouldn't be something wrong about being a witch either. And I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah, no, and I have no problem with like that moniker being adopted by like strong, outspeaking women. That's not what I mean. I just mean like I never thought about it that way, and so like I would just. It never occurred to me to be like witch is an empowering thing, and all for everyone who wants to do that. I think it's great.
Well, I think it's a
I'm
huge
just
thing,
saying,
especially like when I was in high school, we were worrying about like Salem witch trials and stuff. Like girls will literally show up the next day at school wearing witch stuff, like dressed in all black. Like those girls were just trying to be themselves and be human beings, and they got burned at the stake for it.
Yeah, they got ostracized basically because they wanted to live alone. They weren't conforming to, and this is why I was making such a point of it beginning in the first part, because they didn't subscribe to the gender normative roles, they became something else. They were, okay, if you're not going to be a part of society, well then clearly you're evil, you are a witch. And that's it's a big part of that interplay there.
I think this is making me sound like I'm really insensitive to women. That's
I don't
not
think
what
it does.
mean.
I just don't think that like
my point is just I never
like the way you view like the mythical creature of witch is
not associated.
yeah,
with
like I think you're thinking more of like
women.
Wizard of Oz thing.
Yeah,
Which like by the way, I mean the good one's a witch too, so
yeah, that's true.
she comes down in a bubble dog.
I just
video,
never
it's
associated those two things together. And to me, like I would never think of a strong woman as being a witch, and I would never think of a witch as being a strong woman. I think of a witch, that archetype, as just being something mythical that never really existed. And that's kind of why I came to that conclusion. And this is, again, I'm not trying to knock any pagan belief or anything like that. I never associated them that way. And that's why I like this discussion, because I like a lot what you said, Jaden. You think of it like Hermione and like Sabrina, the teenage witch, and these are a strong female character embodying a witch character. Yeah, who
but
is.
That's how I was introduced to them. Is a thing in my life. So that's why I view them that way.
Yeah.
I like if the first movie you saw was Wizard of Oz with the witch, like that's probably the way you're going to view them.
I think I watched Wizard of Oz and Scooby Doo too much. To, like, really let me like be introduced into like that idea. But then again, I said there's like that subreddit, like witches against the patriarchy, and so that is a title, a moniker that has been adopted by this community. It means a lot to like women being able to speak up and share their feelings and be heard. So while I understand it, I'm just saying that's not how I ever view
there's
it.
nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way that you view the acronym witch or the archetype.
I feel like I'm skirting along the line of like, oh man, I really hate women.
No, you're not. You're not.
And I think this is the perfect type of discussion. The fact that we do disagree, or not necessarily disagree, but we see all the elements of how an archetype works in society and within individuals, and all of that comes together in narratives. And that's why they function so many different ways, and that's why archetypes are such a useful thing as a character base, and why Robert Eggers builds all of his characters out of them. Is because whether or not you like the character, whether or not you feel like what they're saying is what a real person would, you still have all of these functions that they apply to in a social context. And so let's talk about like why it's happened. Like why did the witch evolve from what, Connor, your point is like the evil witch into Jaden's idea of the powerful witch. It's like when you think of like Christianity becoming the dominant dogma in Europe, the church had to reconcile the existence of pagan beliefs and values. And like so you had witches and warlocks and druids. And they all needed to be demonized because they're associated with magic, with a K, and perceived evil. Like the consequences for the women were also twofold, because not only were they practitioners of magic, they also didn't conform to the biblical ideas of womanhood. So their communities extolled them and sought them out for their wisdom and powers, which is in direct conflict with women as servants and mothers. So witches then became archetypes of evil and treachery, but have been embraced by modern day women for their feministic qualities, breaking free from the patriarchy and communing with one's natural self, outside the confines of human culture and within the realm of the mystical nature.
Yeah, which is because you never hear about a wizard or warlock getting burned at the stake. That's not something that is.
Yeah, because
talked about.
because you could take that and just become a powerful priest or cardinal. That's
Yeah.
why that doesn't exist as an archetype for men, and it does for women, and why it's so different now in modern culture. Which I just think is, I think
it's dope that it's like empowering. Like I think it's awesome. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, and I also think about like the ending of the film is fascinating. Like there's this we're tapping into like all of these people pondering their greater significance of what it means to be a woman in Puritan society, and so it's like is the ending evil? Like, I mean, obviously, yes, in like a literal sense. I'm pretty sure the twins die. I mean, I
No one has any fucking idea what happens to the twins.
yeah,
all right?
I think they get stolen and they're used for some of the potions at the end.
Probably.
That's my idea. But you can also read it as an allegory for Thomason's emergence from familial punching bag to liberated individual.
Exactly. And like that, I think the whole big thing about Black Phillip was like brainwashing the twins, like making all of these things happen so he could eventually take Thomason. That was his goal the whole time.
Yeah.
Can we, with that, do we want to move into some of our theories about this movie?
Yeah, I would love to. Because I feel like I've talked enough about the witch that we understand. Like, I'm hoping that we understand like where we all talk. Well, why we all think this way about witches and where they are in modern society.
I think it was a good conversation, Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with Jaden a lot about the twins, especially Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are like like this is why I think Mercy is maybe like the most important character to me, which is what I kind of teased at the beginning of this one. She is the one who kind of builds up this kind of mythology around Black Phillip.
Yeah.
And she's always singing these songs and I guess Jonas is a part of that too, but I still feel like Mercy is like the driving character in this. Like during that like exorcism scene with Caleb, she's the one who's like, oh Thomason put a spell on me. I can't say my prayers anymore, and she like falls to the ground and so when I think of the witch in this movie, I don't even think like the witch is like really involved. I like to think of it's Black Phillip. It's the devil. Slowly turning everyone against Thomason, and I think Black Phillip's goal or the devil's goal, however you want to put it, his end goal is to get Thomason. Like that's all he wants. He's like she's the one I'm really after. The way I get her is by turning her whole family against her, and so I like to think of this film as like a social commentary on like maybe family abandonment, like that sense of you no longer belong even in your, not only do you not belong in your family, you don't belong in your own social circle anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes this movie terrifying. It's not the witch. To me, the witch has almost nothing to do with this movie. I think it's this idea of being abandoned and left alone, like you have no one on your side anymore. And that's what makes this movie so scary, is Thomason is absolutely left alone. And I think Mercy is like the driving force behind that, because her songs become more and more prevalent throughout the film. And as they become more prevalent, everyone starts to turn against her. That's why I think Mercy is just a huge part of this movie.
So I'm along the lines of you are like very, very, very similar. I think that the movie title is literally Thomason. I think Thomason is the witch. I think that like the whole thing is about her becoming the witch, and that's like the whole point of the movie, which is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole goal is to get Thomason.
But I think that's why the
witch,
title is called The Witch, is because of Thomason,
right.
Not because of the witch in the forest.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally agree.
And it's like one thing like along the lines of what you were saying is like William, the father, like when he's like you see things like he's so emasculated and he's so prideful, but he's emasculated and everything he can't do is like a man or a father. He can't grow crops, can't hunt. The one thing he's left to do is like, it's manly. He's like, I can cut fucking wood. And it's like literally his pride of like just being like a man, like literally kills him at the end of it too. It's like, cause like all the wood falls onto him.
I love that.
Which is like of him, of like his toxic masculinity, wherever the fuck you want to put it. It's like that's what ends up killing him.
I also like that. I'm going to cut you off
You're
a little
fine.
bit there. When he's chopping wood and he's kind of locked everyone in the barn, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's that part where he's chopping wood, and that's when he gives out like this prayer. He's like, if I've done something wrong, like smite me.
He starts eating dirt.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best scenes in a movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, which Robert Eggers loves making his actors eat dirt
Yeah.
because Willem Dafoe gets just dirt thrown all over
up
him
in his mouth.
in the lighthouse.
It's better than what fucking Robert Pattinson gets. So
So
big old bucket of shit.
I think that's a big point. Is like as a human being, as the leader of this family, as a male, the only thing he is capable of that is productive is chopping wood. And while he's doing that, he's like repenting. He's like, I know I can't. I'm not succeeding.
Yeah.
Take whatever you can from me to spare my children because this is all I have.
Saying maybe he bought some more hammers and less axes.
Yeah. But I think
might be a better dad.
Some better traps.
Yeah.
But I think it's poetic to have him doing the one thing he can do and then apologizing while he's doing it. I think that like works out like
no, it's good. It's
really
a very
well.
good scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just along those lines, I just think that I mean, Black Phillip is just like a little demon driving a wedge throughout this whole family just to make Thomason alone so he can get her.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
And that's why I think of the twins as being imps, because I think of them as devil's helpers. Like they're just
They
being
fucking
twisted
look
around.
like them too.
Exactly, yeah. And I think like I tried looking up mythology of twins. I couldn't find a lot. It was generally like good luck. Like,
And, what it reminds me of is like in literally the cartoon movie Hercules.
Yeah.
these
those
two
two.
little dudes.
Pain and Panic.
What are those? Yeah, those guys.
yeah.
I love the part where he's wearing like the Hercules shoes.
That's exactly what I just said.
Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I think they're kind of stylish. It's so funny.
But the other thing I think that they kind of remind me of is is Hansel and Gretel. You know, going to the witch's house. I kind of wonder if they did find the witch's house, and that's kind of like, you know, building more of why
That might make sense why they're fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like
been getting fed
they
by
were
them.
like they were bewitched early,
Yeah.
and so that's sorry.
I don't even know if you need to bewitch a kid like that. I think you just have to like mentally trick them.
Sorry, I'm going to steal more time, but like again, I think that it, in order for my theory to make sense, it's like the twins were like a part of this bewitching, whatever the witch did,
Yeah.
or whatever Black Phillip did. They were part of it early,
Yeah.
and that's what drives like the wedge, like you said, like
Yeah.
between Thomason and the family.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I was saying. It's like I think that they could have been like if you think of them as two young children going to a witch's house in the middle of a forest. That's kind of why I think that. Like they're just pulling like the apple from Snow White. We're just pulling elements from other stories that exist in the collective unconscious, and that's why they work.
Because the witch like in the forest, like not only was like Red Riding Hood, the witch from Snow White, like there's so many different adaptations like of like the way that she looks.
That's the first
Yes.
thing I thought. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like right out of a fable, a fairy
Yeah.
tale. I was
Yes.
like, yep, exactly.
And that's why the tagline for this movie is what I'm sorry, I'm about to jump into what it is and I don't remember. It's a New England myth, right? Or
a New England folktale, something like
folktale.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly why you have all of these elements taken from other folktales is because they're meant to be in service of another one, because that's how folktales work. They're just elements of other stories that we keep telling ourselves and building in the collective unconscious.
Neat.
Do we have final thoughts on this one?
Yeah.
All right, Jaden. What do you think of this one?
Are we doing ratings right now?
Oh yeah, okay. Let's figure out a good one. How many apples do you give this one?
Oh, I was gonna give it Crow Pecks.
Throat peck?
Crow pecks.
Crow Pecks.
Oh my god.
But it's okay. Apples will be fine.
Apples is good.
Yeah, throat apples. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5.
Wow.
Which I think is pretty low for me for an A24 movie. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the dialogue and the pacing of this movie. But there are great acting. There's great scenes. There's a fun discussion, which I almost did bring it up. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna stick to my guns here. It's still a pass for me, but it's not where I'd like to see an A24 movie
Interesting.
or a Robert Eggers movie, because I think The Lighthouse by far outshines this one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think that The Lighthouse is better, but I think that the reason that I like The Lighthouse better, there's actually a couple times in the commentary where they're talking about the some of the lighting that they did. They did some things in post where they made some things darker, and he even mentioned like that scene where Ralph Ineson, where William is chopping wood and eating dirt. Like it's just like he's talking about the about Blaschke, the cinematographer, the DP, saying that he didn't like the lighting on the shirt. It's too bright. I was like, yeah, it doesn't. It's a little too bright in this sense. It's kind of distracting. Like there are elements here that they just perfected in the lighthouse with very. They had to be so attentive to detail because they were shooting on film that they didn't in a way here, and it kind of messes with the aesthetic in a few parts that I don't love. The other thing too is that this film needs more time to breathe. My favorite shot is when they're burying Caleb and they're in the bottom left of the frame, and you have the woods in the background and you have the smoke coming out of the chimney in the house, and I just want to hang on to that shot just a few seconds longer. It cuts just a little too short. So again, it's the same sort of thing with Enemy. Like I want more shots to go on just a little bit longer. So for that reason, it's a 9.4. 9.4 apples.
That's very high, Calvin. Yeah.
It's all of the Eggers charm, all of the fantastic cinema elements that I love.
I like to think this film more is like abandonment by your family, and that kind of speaks to me a little bit because there was a time where I had like a rough go with my family, and that part of the film like really hit a note with me, and so I guess that's why I take that lens to this film. I understand, like I said, all the imagery and all this symbolism that goes on with this, but I really like thinking of this as Thomasin being abandoned. Thomasin is forced to turn to a society that is maybe not the most peaceful, maybe not the most like welcoming, but it's the only thing that is going to accept her. And she has all these like twists and turns that get her there, like she kills her mom, which is a insanely brutal scene.
She has no choice. I mean, her mom is trying to kill her,
Mm-hmm.
But I think of that as like the ultimate turn away from her family. It's like now she's like, okay, I have nothing else now. All I have is to sign this book and move on and become a witch because this is all I have left now. And so I know maybe the point that there's much more depth to this film, but what I take away from it is the kind of abandonment of family, and that to me is more horrifying than anything. To not have the people who should be closest to you accept you anymore, and kind of the slow build of like every sibling kind of turns against her, her parents end up turning against her. I think that is like that speaks volumes to me. I'm horrified watching this because I'm like, oh my God, I'm really close to my family. If they like kind of turn against me this way in an hour and a half, that's crazy to me. Like that would like hurt my heart. It hurts my heart watching this just because I'm like, oh my God, like I can't imagine that happening to me. And so that's what I kind of take away from this is the family drama. I actually like that aspect of it a lot more than kind of any of the subtext that's going on. And I don't think that's like, it might be a shallow take on this, considering all the stuff that's going on. But I really like it for that. Like that's enough for me. I love all the hair stuff though. I love.
That's so cool, isn't it?
I especially love like that the Bible also has a thing about hairs, and it to sort of contrasts like the Bible and like pagan beliefs. I think it's awesome. I kind of agree with Jaden though. I think this movie is a little bit too slow. It's too slow a burn, I guess. I would like to let's ignite this bad boy.
Yeah, you're one of those people saying it, not
not Robert.
Yeah,
not old Bobo.
Yeah. So I probably put this at like a 7 or 8.
No, you have to give a number, a real number. Is it a 7.5?
7.5. Okay, I'll go right.
I don't want to have to
between.
do the math later and like I have to round.
That's right. You got your cool spreadsheet.
I'm all about spreadsheets, man.
All right. I think we're wrapping this one up. For Calvin and Jaden, I'm your host, Connor, and I just want to thank you for listening to Now This Is Podcasting.